right, cool. All right, well, our guest is actually our founder this morning, Pat Conaway, man about town. And this morning he's going to talk about, I guess, the supercharged Keep Natick Beautiful. So Pat, tell me when you want me to start sharing the slide deck, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. I enjoy opportunity to chat it up with you folks and promote myself shamelessly and and our organization. So we've been cooking along here for about actually 12 years. We were Big Heart Little Feet for the first 6, I think. And then people convinced me that that was kind of hard for people to understand. So we changed our name to Keep Natick Beautiful, and we kept doing pretty much the same stuff. But yeah, we got official and we became a chapter in the national organization of Keep America Beautiful and part of Keep Massachusetts Beautiful. And I have right here, you know, 3 of my core buddies on Keep Natick Beautiful, and you know them well, I think. How about you? Maybe not Brian, but you know Carrie. Carrie's the treasurer, yeah, and all around handyman and volunteer, super volunteer. And then I have Brian Pearson over here. Brian's been really active the last couple of years, doing all kinds of stuff with us. And then I have my sister Sally, of course, and she's here, but I don't know if you can see her on camera. She's
Yeah, we're seeing her. Yeah.
See her? Okay, good. Yeah, she's the secretary of Keep Natick Beautiful.
She just powdered her nose, so she looks a little.
Yeah, she's all dressed up in her.
Yeah, so
I didn't get the memo out to Carrie and Brian where their colors. Yeah, right. So we're getting a little more organized. We're getting hats, and we're getting some T-shirts, and we're trying to promote ourselves.
Yeah.
So the project I kind of wanted to talk to you about today is one of our pet projects, and it's been developed a little more. It's been ramped up, let's say, by some tech savvy people, a young man from Holy Cross who needed community service hours, and he's just put us in a whole new zone. And I'll explain it kind of after you see the quick slideshow. You'll get an overview of our Natick litter defense system, we call it. And I don't think there's any other town that's quite as aggressive, although I'm not sure. I don't think there's any other community that I'm aware of, at least in Metro West, that is quite this aggressive about litter, except maybe Framingham. Framingham's unbelievable. But here's the slideshow. That was a few years ago when we had some old 2017, I think. And that's my family there. So that was at Natick Earth Day. We used to have them on the common, you know. Yeah, you can advance it. How do we go? Yeah. So this is me. A few years ago with my collections from the Bowden Lane Bridge, which is right in my neighborhood. Bowden Lane Bridge, when it was open to automobile traffic, was this unique trash monster that people drive over at night and throw their trash out of both sides of their car. Carrie's been down there on those slopes.
I picked up 60 nips, I think, of one type on one side, about 45 of the other side. I think it was like a nightly ritual. One guy threw it over here, and the other got tossed on the other side. It was,
yeah, so that's just a little demonstration. And then the map, the big Natick map there with all the little red dots, that's a map that this great guy at Natick GIS, Rich Ames, who somebody may have heard of, he's been really helpful. He's made me some maps, and he's yeah, it's really great. Okay, you can advance. So there I am again in my front yard, and with my little Keep Natick Beautiful feather. But the unique challenge of Natick, I think it's different, much different than say Wellesley or Weston. It is a cut through town with major roadways going north and south and east and west. And volume of automobile traffic in Natick, well, maybe I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's absolutely astounding. And the number of cars that are on, say, Route 27, easily 20,000 cars a day, even more maybe on Route 135. Of course, the Mass Pike, and one of the biggest, largest shopping malls in America. So you've got a perfect storm for litter. And so we have our hands full. We do the best we can.
And Mass Pike is 200,000 cars a day.
Yeah. So yeah, you can advance. Yeah, I just kind of repeating myself there. But we've had some success in coping with this challenge because we've had a lot of wonderful volunteers over the last dozen years. And it's fallen off a little bit because there have been so many things going on in my own family and so forth. But we're kind of getting back on our course, and we're trying to recruit volunteers like crazy. So if you even want to get involved, just let me know. Of course, I have some people right there on the screen, like Sarah, who helped me with all kinds of great stuff, especially some of the nasty projects like that settling pond at the junction of Route 135 and Spain Street. We cleaned that up last Tuesday, was it, or whatever?
Thursday.
Still one of my
Thursday.
favorite crazy things we found in there. One of the
Oh.
previous cleanups we found, somebody, I don't know if they lost it or if they did it on purpose, had like a 3 or 4 foot long foam alligator that had
Yeah.
floated down the stream into the pond. You never know what you're going to find.
I hopefully it wasn't snapping, but
Well, we did pull out a snapping turtle.
Yeah.
oh yeah, Carrie did the carcass of a snapping turtle. Anyway, what we're trying to do is, this is a phrase that actually my son Brett kind of came up with. We're trying to build common ground by removing trash from our grounds. I want to attribute that to Brett. He kind of came up with that. So, and that's our little Garden of Hope and Peace at the Common Street Church just across the street. Talk more about that later. So in recent years, we've been able to get people to help us with this adopt a spot. So around town, there might be 50 or 55 of these units. It's a side-by-side system, trash and recycling. Now, it's partly because I'm so idealistic. I really believe people will do the right thing and often do. Now, so I try to provide them with the infrastructure to make the right decision, you know, throw the bottle in the can or recycling, throw the trash in the trash. It works pretty well. I have this sort of motto, is no outdoor trash barrel without a buddy bin, or you need a recycle buddy bin. And I did this for a while. You might think I'm crazy. I think back in middle, or maybe 2014, or I had about 160 buddy bins all over 3 towns, Wayland, Natick, and Framingham. Framingham was brutal. I mean, it's so big. And we had a buddy bin, and with, I can't tell you how many pieces of on-the-go plastic I saw in 3 or 4 years. It must have been hundreds of thousands of on-the-go plastic bottles and cans and everything. And what got me all fired up about it was I would go to my grandson's Little League games down in Natick, in South Natick, and I'd see the town trash barrel. And then I'd look in the trash barrel and I'd see about 50% of it was bottles and cans, recyclable stuff. So we started the buddy bin movement, and I hand make them with, you know, high school kids, camps, church groups. We've made them, you know, they're very simple and basic. They're not the most attractive thing in the world, but
Right there.
yeah. So I'll show this. Anyway, they do provide an opportunity for people to do the right thing. So that's where we're on the adopt a spot.
Pat, that was my Pegan Cove buddy bin by Frog Pond, right?
Yeah, I believe it was one of the Pegan Cove ones. Yeah. And Bill's really good. He helps me with all my Pegan Cove. I think we have 5 of them over there. And so this is the young man, Henry Kavanaugh, who has designed this new system. And you can think you can see it in the slide. It has the QR code and a number for each unit. And what you do is you can take your phone and you just go like that up to the QR code, and it takes you right to this little reporting, a Google Doc. And you can just tell us whether the barrel is full or damaged or knocked over, or, you know, you give us a little feedback. And we get it immediately, and then we can go out and, you know, fix it or empty it or whatever. Yeah, Henry's done a great job with us. We're gonna lose him. He's on his way to the University of Illinois at Urbana to be a graduate student in chemistry.
Wow.
Yeah, this Henry. One of our favorite spots, Coolidge Hill. One of the worst party hotspots, litter hotspots in the whole community for decades. Do you know that in the 30s, it was actually a place where there were some encampments. There were some homeless people who lived up there.
Wow. Wow.
And this is the hill, which I'm sure some of you have been up there. Henry Wilson used to go up there and practice his speeches. You know, he's our most notorious political leader. So it's kind of a sacred spot. And well, a lot of you have been helping me with for years up there.
It's a rite of passage, I think, for some people to go up there before they leave high school, take a beer bottle after they've chugged it down and smash it against the rocks. We come up here with vacuum, literally compressed
Yeah.
Yeah,
vacuum cleaners to vacuum up all the broken glass. It's just,
yeah, the broken glass, we've done a pretty good job. It's there's still some pieces up there, but it's a lot safer and it's a lot more attractive, and it's, everybody can use it now. It's not just a, you know, party zone. You know, beautiful view. So get up there and take a look at
leave your beer bottles at home.
it. Yeah, and then here's Henry labeling and stickering all the buddy bins and barrels. This is around 135, which is Route 135's tough area. In fact, we're having a big collaborative effort on this weekend on Saturday with Keep Framingham Beautiful, and we're going to clean up all the whole stretch, starting from about the Denison Crossing. That's where Framingham sort of gets started, and they'll work their way, I think, east. And we're going to have a staging area at Roach Brothers. And we'll be working our way, especially both east and west from Roach Brothers. A lot of stuff just blows right into the woods adjacent to Fisk Pond. And I think some of the businesses there, I'm going to ask Paul to help me out on that. I think they're not closing their dumpsters at night, the lids and the stuff just flies out of plastic wrapping. And, you know, some of the, it's just an area where there's an awful lot of litter, and some of it's definitely coming from the mall, little mini malls along that side there. You know.
It's tough because I know the dumpsters have the side doors. I've even noticed here with this.
Yeah.
Even just a small footprint dumpster, they keep both sliders
Yeah,
available
sliders.
to residents, so people will open it, leave it open.
Yeah.
And you can see how that can.
Yeah, the squirrels crawl in and they pull stuff out, you know.
Sure.
It's a battle. Anyway, okay. We'll get through this here. So now we have a whole system with interface with Natick DPW. They help us a lot too. And this is a picture of what Carrie did not too long ago. So the bins, they do fill up, and so we try to have zone captains and volunteers check the barrels and bins and empty them from time to time. And when they empty them, they put them in a big black bag, and then they just put the little sticker here that we give to our volunteers. If they put it on the black bag and stage it like Carrie did near the guardrail, then we can take a picture of it and send it to Brian Casey, who's the new highway sanitation director at DPW.
I should, yeah, if I can jump in.
Yeah,
You know, typically, there's a clear bag and black for trash, clear for recyclables. And I made a run for like 3 stops that day, and there was so much stuff that was in the quote unquote recycle bin that really wasn't recyclable. I took it home and sorted it and put
Yeah.
stuff that could be recycled in my own
Right.
barrel, and then just put the rest of the stuff in trash, because it's education is still a big.
Yeah,
big need in town.
it's getting a little better, but we have some work to do, yeah. So people don't have to drive the stuff around in their car, the volunteers could just leave it there. And then, of course, we have at least a couple dozen of these litter hotspots all over Natick. I call them night motorists, trashers, or hardcore party people, whoever.
Doggy dates.
It probably shouldn't, yeah, label people like that, but that's kind of what we're fighting.
Doggy daycare, let's bring that up.
Yeah.
What was that about doggy daycare?
Well, what happens to the barrels occasionally is that,
That's got signs that said no dog poop, please, but it really hasn't deterred people from, doggy dates or whatever it is. Just coming by with the cover of darkness and dropping about 40 bags of dog poop in the trash.
yeah,
which is
I'll
just
show you
disgusting.
that one when we get a little closer. Yeah, we're attempting to educate people to take their dog poop home and put it in their own trash.
Have you actually seen them do it, or is it just
Not
presented
yet.
because of the volume?
I can tell from the volume, it's not.
No.
people.
It's kind of a night thing, I think. The people, especially Carrie's dealt with it, that bring a whole bunch of doggy. If the average person who's walking their dog throws a bag in there, that's not the
It's gonna
problem.
be intermingled, but this is like, you can tell it's just one big pile of
Yeah, yeah.
bags.
But it could be one of several services that do that, right?
That's
There's a
true.
couple of
Yeah,
people
I can't
to
put the
do that.
blame just
Got
on
it.
dog.
I wasn't sure if you knew offhand.
No, I thought that, can we put a camera there somehow? Yeah, I just put myself a note to contact them and kind of see. where
So-
we go.
Not being a dog owner, just to educate me a little bit. So the idea is that a small quantity of these dog bags intermingled with the rest of the trash is okay, but a concentration is not? Is that the?
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get people to do the right thing, take their dog poop home, but it's so convenient. I understand why people will drop their bags in there.
But
The thing that we also fight the household trash cheaters, I call them. People who don't want to buy a blue bag and they come along and they'll dump their own household trash into our barrels. They do it with the town barrels too. So a time or two, I've been able to get an address on the envelope. I send it into Tom Attic. And then they would send a letter or something, but they can't do that all the time. A lot of times it's all mixed up. But less litter, less littering. That is something we've definitely found out. It's true.
Hey, Pat, quick question back to the recycling bins and people putting stuff in that shouldn't be in there. I haven't, I will confess, I have not been out really reading the updated bin literature, or what's on the signs, but do the signs say what Natick accepts for recycling? Because, different towns do it differently. And I know that sounds like a really elementary piece of information to people, but
Yeah, that's a good question. It's too much information to put on a barrel, but it does say something like no plastic bags, no styrofoam, but
Yeah.
you do get a mix. But the only thing is, the good thing about the little cage bins is that they're so highly visible that people kind of get the idea that, and we made it more in this, well, we'll show you the taller tube-like buddy bin. It has some advantages. People don't think of it automatically as a trash barrel. They,
Mhm.
sort of get
Uh,
the point.
Can you say what that picture was before, just the one before, where that was?
Sorry.
Where was
Let
it?
me see if I can go back. This one.
Well, yeah, that was a particularly tough area. We don't have the units over there anymore. We call it Toolmex Beach, which is right on Lake Achitchewat behind the old Toolmex company. And it was we have these waterfronts in Natick. I call them rogue waterfronts. Every time the temperature goes up to 85 or 90, the people come from everywhere, not just Framingham, all over. And they'll party, they'll barbecue, they'll swim, they'll drink like crazy. And it was just a place that was a hotspot for this area. Now it's been kind of better controlled. I think maybe the police and the newer businesses there have made it discourage people from driving in and parking.
The fences or something.
So we had some volunteers. We tried over there as best we could, but wow.
So are they all grouped together because that's the way you leave them, or that's because was the
That
peop-
was a particularly tough area, so I had like about 4 barrels of
Okay,
5 buddy bins there, trying to
Thank
cope
you.
with it.
Thanks.
That's all we did.
Yep.
So now what I was going to talk to you about today is that we do have the town divided up in 8 zones, and we have a recruiting a captain or a co-captain for each zone. And we've sort of established some basic responsibilities for people if they want to take on that kind of role. But there also there's opportunities for people who don't have less time and want to just help out a little bit. They can also volunteer to help us. And so there are different levels of service, you know, that we could do. But now that it's organized into the zones, I think we're going to be able to have people kind of take responsibility for it. And then they're going to be able to provide some of their volunteers with materials and equipment and supplies. So they could come to my house and they can get pickers, and we have a whole bunch of bags, gloves. We have safety vests and things like that that people can use. So if you're walking, and if you take 2 or 3 or 4 walks a week, just asking people to, well, bring a picker on a couple of those walks, you know, get what you can. You know, we have that level as well. But we do have a whole document and a kind of a Google Doc which identifies what people can do if they want to.
Call it trash walking.
Yeah. If they want to get more deeply involved and become a captain or a co-captain of it. Each zone's got about 7 or 8 of the barrels and buddy bins in it.
Hey, Pat, can you share the leaders in each of the zones? I'm curious about where Pekin Cove fits and who the leader is, so I can be in touch with him.
Yes,
You can
I
do it
can send you
offline,
that.
but-
And
Yeah, okay.
right now it's Henry and me, sometimes John O'Fria. But yeah, we've been trying to cope with it the best we can, but we would like to recruit more help, but we have to, because now the summer, warm season's coming up, and that's when things really get active in all of these areas.
Thanks.
So this would be kind of quick. This slide's a little old. We got trail buddies like Bill who work in certain conservation areas, certain areas in Natick. And it was part of our trash and trails thing. But now we have a pretty active Natick trails maintenance, trails and stewardship committee that's run by Doug Drenick. And it's really, they've got a lot of people working on our trails and our woodlands. So we're not as focused on the trails as we used to be, but there are some superheroes in there like Bill, who he continues to work on that 22 acres that we call Pekin Cove, which was a knotweed, what do you call it? It was just a forest of knotweed for decades. And somehow Bill's been able to get it under control the last 5 or 6 years. It really is a transformation. You can't imagine what it used to be like. It was just awful.
How big was your grant from Keep America's Beautiful?
Oh yeah, excuse me. We got $5,000 from them about 5 years ago, so that was really helpful. You know, we got a couple of little electric chainsaws, and we got loppers, and some more things that we could really have been able to help us. So we've started to share all those things too with Bryant, with Doug, and the trails committees. And of course, Martin's been helping for years too in the background with all kinds of open space stuff. So
I will
Yeah.
say, for Earth Day yesterday, I led a hike through Timothy Coolidge Hill. And other than picking up one
Yeah.
aluminum baking dish, which I thought was kind of a weird thing to find in the middle of the woods with a candy wrapper attached. Other than that, I didn't see any trash.
Tiny couple of pieces, way
Yeah.
less than before.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was in pretty good shape.
Yeah, things have gotten better. We once took a full sofa off of that little Timothy Coolidge. Yeah, you know, and a big easy chair off of the Duck Pond beach one time. Yeah, so
Well, at least if you had to take a rest while bringing it out, it gave you someplace to sit. Right?
right,
It was
have a
the-
place to rest.
The
Yeah,
Henry Wilson Barca Lounger.
yeah, right. So I think these were some students from, actually, they might have been from Natick High. And they helped me over on the Cochituate Aqueduct Trail. We had different groups, student groups and so forth they helped us. I think in that case, they're spreading a bark mulch on some of the wet areas of the trail. So now we've also developed these gardens. There's one in my backyard, and then there's this one here across from the post office, which is kind of an interesting little mix of vegetables and flowers and herbs. And Ian, the pastor there, has let us use that little grassy strip. So we now have somebody, a young man, Ben Feldman, who's kind of organizing it. And our first name was Garden of Hope. And then we changed it to Garden of Hope and Peace in honor of the Rwandan peace activist, Hippolyte. I don't remember how to say his last name. Nigiri. Yeah. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He's come and spoke and had vigils at Common Street before. And Carrie knows him, Sally, you know, we've all met him and talked to him. He must be in his middle or late 30s, and he's just this amazing kid, a young man, excuse me, who, but he was 7 years old, I think, when the Rwandan genocide happened, and he was hiding in the bushes not to get slaughtered. His dad was killed and other members of his family.
Also hiding in the bushes.
Also, yeah, and so he survived. And his whole thing was to, he decided to not seek revenge, but to seek peace. And one of the things he started was this amazing thing. He hiked, is it 100 or some
100 days and
180 miles, the whole boundary of Rwanda. He hiked around with a backpack and talked to people and kind of mobilized and recruited both perpetrators and victims, families, to get together and work on things like gardens and farming. And he's done a lot of really incredible stuff.
looking to build a peace center in Rwanda.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
coming back here, I think, sometime before the end of the summer.
yeah.
Yeah, if there's anybody that hasn't met him, he did speak at Coffee with a Purpose. So one of our recordings is his talk with us. So you can go out to the site and check it out. It's an amazing guy.
So the gardens are kind of dedicated in his honor. You know, we can kind of scoot through these. These are just photos of the garden.
Oh, I guess that was it. Let me stop the share, and I guess you've got some show and tell items there, right? Or...
Yeah, yeah, it was, you know, you saw them on the screen, but so people can, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just,
Great.
email me or call me or text me and say, Pat, I'd like to help. So we often will set them up with their own toolkit. I got about 60 of these guys. They're not cheap, but they're really great for, you know, pulling a can or a bottle out of the poison ivy and stuff. You don't have to get yourself, you know, all messed up. They're very handy. And, you know, just, let's say Monday. Yeah, well, just yesterday, we had 40 or 45 people from Spark Kindness and Natick Rotary and Natick 180 out there on the Cochituate Trail helping us. And they all had these things that you wouldn't believe what they picked up. I threw some of it on Facebook and stuff, but they did a fantastic job. Because the rail trail, it's not like it was really trashed when you walk down the rail trail. But if you look a little further off into the adjacent shoulders of the trail or the woodlands, there's quite a bit of stuff. They did a great job. It was amazing. So sometimes we have those bigger groups that help us, and even some of the corporate groups have been really fantastic. Like the one that helped us with the settling pond was a new group that I just met, kind of online, and they're called the Natick Mall Home Management Team. And I guess they manage mall, and there were about a dozen, about 10 of them, and they did a terrific job on that nasty pond. But what I was hoping to do was give you the so if somebody wants to sign up and help, they can contact us online or whatever, but we usually try to give them some of the basic materials they need, like, trash bags. We also give them bags for recycling, clear bags that they can use when they collect, a clean bottle or a can. I even, it's set up over right behind the Coal Center, which I don't know if you're familiar with where the Natick Recreation and Parks Department is, but behind Coal Center, the town has got a big cardboard recycling dumpster, a big dumpster for trash, and about 8 or 6 of these the toters, recycled toters, where I can put all the recycling and the trash and the cardboard.
That's on Bowden Lane kind of off of Hartford Street.
Yeah, it's Bowden, what do they call it? Coal Center, I think.
Yeah.
So that's where the town is good enough to give us a place to put all this stuff. And what we do is you don't have to drive around in your own car. If it's something that is really bulky and hard to manage, you just have to take a picture of it and send it to us. And then sometimes even Brian or I could go out with our little utility trailer and pick it up and get it out of there. But generally, if it's real bulky, I can email a picture of it to the DPW, and they will come around and pick it up. So I think I'll just read to you a little sheet that we developed for the zone captains. These are the basic responsibilities. I mean, it's online, but I'll just make it real quick. Oversee a bin and a barrel within your zone and using the QR code reporting system, which is really not very complicated. It's pretty easy to do. QR code, and you do that, and then you empty the bins and barrels from time to time, maybe every 10 to 14 days. You try to put it in the trash bag or the recycle bag, put a sticker on it. And then it has a, address, Brian Casey's address. You can just email him and say the bag's here and
Take a picture of it.
yeah, take a picture of it. Yeah. And then I ask people to kind of clean up in a 20-30 foot area around the barrel and bin. And then come and get any tools or materials, supplies you might need. Just come to my house and I can get them ready for you. And it's pretty simple and straightforward. The buddy bins are again, they're a little homely, but they do work. They're made out of kennel wire, and actually I make them with groups. We made some on Martin Luther King Day during the service project, and it's just kennel wire and bend it into a sort of cylinder, crimp it down with pliers, and then put a bottom on it and a sign. The thing about the buddy bin is they sort of self-clean when it rains. And they also, so they don't attract a lot of real nasty bees and flies, but they also, they get banged up, okay? I had to take a bunch of them off the roads, especially in the winter, because winter plows, the sidewalk plows, bang them up pretty bad. But during this, the good weather season, roughly from April to, I would say November, I have them out there. I take a few in for winter storage and so forth. But we always leave a few bottles and cans in the bottom of the buddy bins, plastic or aluminum. so that people know what it is. So kind of like one of the kids that volunteered with me said, yeah, it's like a tip jar, you know.
Exactly.
It'll leave a little. And they're anchored by bungee cords and so forth, so they don't blow around and get. But as Carrie says, some people will put the wrong things in them, and that's a little bit of a hassle. But generally, they're usually filled with mostly recyclables. And then the barrels with the trash, the ones, you'll see them around town. And if you actually walk by one, I know Paul walks around Dudley Pond a lot, and some of you walk through that, you'll notice that there's going to be dog poop in them. But if you empty them by the time they get about half full, they're a lot easier to manage. The problem is this barrel, if it's full of dog poop, can weigh 60 or 70 pounds. So it's a real hassle to empty when they're full, especially with dog poop. So there are some downsides to it, but I think we've got enough people. No, we don't have enough people. That's what I'm saying. We want to get enough people that can help us with each zone. And
How many total zones do we have?
we have about 8.
8.
And there's one of the things that I can send you this all stuff virtually online. We have a volunteer named Stuart, who is Scottish guy, lives right up in my neck in West Natick. And Stuart McGarity works at MathWorks. And he is you may have heard these people. He's a plugger. He actually runs back and forth to work. And as he runs, he picks stuff up. And so he uses the barrels from the bins and he tosses
Great.
and he's a real superstar. He's been working on this for about 6 years. But Stuart also made this Google map, which is so cool. It's you can get it online. I don't know if we'll show it to you here. I don't think, but it shows you where every bin and barrel, all the units are all over Natick. And they're linked so that if you take a zone, we have a doc that has the list of the barrels and bins in that zone. And we even have some, temporary captains and co-captains, but we need help. We need, I would say if we could get another couple dozen volunteers, we'd have a pretty good leg up on it.
Pat, on that note, we maybe talk about the Facebook group page that's fairly new.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Framingham kind of went from a very small group to a huge contingency of people. They're not all volunteers, but they're online there. And it was, I think, their primary source of finding volunteers to do just what you're talking about. So I know a lot of people, I've sent out email and other people sent out invitations to join the Facebook/groups/Keep Natick Beautiful and just kind of become part of it. And maybe in turn send that link out to people that we're trying to build up that database of names, and then maybe hopefully out of those we can harvest some people to fill some of the roles that Pat's talking about. So Facebook.com/groups/Keep Natick Beautiful.
Yeah, it's when you go on Facebook, we have just to explain, we have a couple of pages, a little confusing at times. One says Keep Natick Beautiful page,
Right.
and the other one says just Keep Natick Group. Yeah.
Groups,
Yeah,
plural.
Groups.
Yeah, in Facebook, a group and a page are different entities, and it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, that's why it's a little
Yeah.
confusing.
And groups is what Framingham used to go from like 6 people to almost 1,900, in a matter of like a few
Right.
months.
They really are amazing.
So I think we can hopefully duplicate what they've done.
And you get a perk, if you get really involved in it, here you go, give you a
Oh,
t-shirt,
yeah.
hat, you can really look
T-shirt.
at it.
I
got one for
gotta
you.
show you guys something. Talk about real-time advertising. So
Oh.
here's Paul Joseph's Facebook page saying, please follow the Keep Natick Beautiful page. Recognize anybody on this?
Yeah, well, on that note, I was just trying to log in myself, and I'm like, shoot, I put page, not groups there. So I was actually trying to edit it as we're speaking.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's great. That's what
That's
we
pretty
need.
cool. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's really, I was trying to tell the Spark, the families at the Spark thing that we did yesterday, and I tell the corporate volunteers that we have too, or the students or the scouts. What I try to explain is that, yeah, we're trying to pick up litter and make the town nicer to live in and everything, but essentially what we're trying to do is fire people up about the local environment. And that's something that I've felt that the local environment is MIA, misunderstood, ignored, and abused. So it sort of describes how it gets treated. So what we're trying to do is educate people and fire them up about doing things right there in their own community or neighborhood or school, that they can, tangible things that they can do to make everything better. And then I try to provide them with infrastructure and the tools to get out there and get going. So that's kind of our mission. And we're shameless recruiters. We'll recruit anybody. If you got a little time on a Saturday or when you take your dog for a walk or whatever you
Take a picture of whatever you do, post it on
yeah.
Facebook groups. That's what, again, it's kind of, it's recognition for the
Framingham
people
does
helping
this.
support, the whole cause.
Yeah, that
Work and getting that message out there.
yeah, I think that what Framingham has found is they have this reinforcing a momentum, because if people go out and they do this trash collection or litter collection almost every 2 or 3 days, and they're posting it, and then all the people in the group are congratulating them and talking back and forth. It's an amazing thing that they've
Just grown exponentially, and I think, hopefully we can replicate what their success.
yeah.
And they're just individuals. They're folks, I would say easily my age. In fact, there are a couple of delightful women of an age who are just taking walks, and right in their right hand is their trash picker, in their left hand is their bag, and they're striding out and then just put
Great,
something up,
terrific.
just relax and spontaneous, and then they put it on their Facebook page.
I think some of the people here, for example, have been working with me for years, and I've already got a t-shirt and a hat for them, but they, Sarah and Doug and Martin. But the other thing that we have now, we've gotten some more, I'll get one for you, Bill, if it will help you at all. It's a little collapsible trash barrel. We used them a lot yesterday on the Cochise Rail Trail. And you can actually take them out and you have
Nice. Woo-hoo.
oh, a couple of people working with this, because it handles on both sides, and then it's so much easier to just throw the trash into it rather than a bag. The bag's okay, but this is a lot easier, and you can drag it. It's pretty light.
Another
Easy
thing
to
that I
store,
found works
so-
well, we have, with Doug always doing assorted projects and what have you, we end up having some 5-gallon buckets, but I know like you can get them at Home Depot, and a 5-gallon bucket is the same as this, but a little smaller to manage if you're in a place that's really brushy and hard to navigate through. 5-gallon bucket is sturdy, it's got a handle. It's probably not going to get so heavy that you can't lug it back. So I know my go-to thing is a picker in a 5-gallon pail.
Good
And
idea.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that as well.
And so I would just conclude by saying that we'd love to, if you have somebody, a nephew or cousin, whatever, neighbor who wants to get involved, just have them, contact me. My email and my phone are all over the 60 barrels and bins all over town. But then also, it's pretty easy to find. Keep it beautiful. And we're fortunate to have some really super active volunteers now, like Brian and a guy that I taught with in Wayland when I was a teacher at Wayland Middle School. His family are helping a lot. Like I said, Stuart, this guy Stuart, he's amazing. He's got a little Boy Scout group that's gonna go. He told me just today, he says, I need some pickers. So I'm setting him aside, and he's got a little Boy Scout group that's gonna go over and do the, I don't know if you're familiar with Natick High School, but the parking lots, there are a couple of large parking lots, well, 2 or 3. Not the one that's really closest to the pond, but the one that is closest to the baseball field. They call that the junior lot for some reason. That's a notoriously trashed area, and it's not just the students. I mean, people when they come there for games and activities and so forth, people just throw trash out of their cars, you know, like when they're parked or, it's just, it's sad. So he's taking his little Boy Scout group over there this week, I think, and they're gonna attack it.
That's terrific. I know Cindy's got her hand up to ask a question.
When we had the Keep Massachusetts Beautiful, I forget his name, when he came, I remember the discussion turned a little bit to how do we make less litter in the first place? And I know you mentioned that the less litter there is, the less littering there is. Are there other thoughts out there for Natick specifically? And does Natick have its own regulations about littering with a fine, or is that just under the state? Does it have to be on a state road? I know sometimes there's signs on the highways, but maybe that's not a very useful thing. I don't know. I'm just curious on that whole side of things, Pat.
Yeah, you know, I've explored that a little bit, not just with DPW, but in other towns. And I think there are some towns that do have pretty strong signage. I think Sherburne, for example, has littering or very strong signs. But I don't know. I've talked to people who say they don't really work that well. Now, I think it's also a factor. I think the major factor is automobile traffic.
This is right.
And the intensity of the cut through transportation thing that Natick has. Plus, it's a very commercially developed town, which is good in some ways, in a lot of ways. But a town like in a sleepy, super wealthy suburb like Weston, they're not dealing with what we're dealing with, or Sherburne, or even Wayland, or Dover. They're totally different communities. You know, the characteristics are just so different. Yeah. I don't know what I'm still trying to learn what's the best approach. You know, we're still trying this and trying that.
Yeah.
But I think like where Bill works a lot at Pegan Cove, which is a beautiful area, there used to be a heavier partying going on down there. But even the fishermen, you know, the fisher people that like to use Pegan Cove fish and so forth, they're getting a little better. Their accuracy getting a bit above their bottles and so forth in the bins and barrels. Don't you think, Bill?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just, they've been there for a long time. And I think folks are doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, there's improvement all over, you know, even on Coolidge Hill.
Yep.
And they're having a lot
So
more.
just
Yeah.
one thought before I let it go is recently I've driven down 27 through Sherburne to go over to the Restore in Ashland. And every time I come into Sherburne, there's that sign that says, "Oh, you're going too fast. Oh, yep." You know, and it changes when you get to 28. It says, "Yep." And it's actually very rewarding to sort of see that. And so I wonder if something like that scattered around every so often, you wouldn't leave it there permanently, but where the message, maybe there's a sign there all the time, and then once every so often, it just reminds people to keep Natick clean or something. This is our town, yo people. I don't know, but something that makes that catches people's eye. I don't know. The DPW certainly has those mobile, what do you call it? There's one up there now.
Mobile billboards. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Henry,
Brindley's got her
okay.
hand up, and I know
Yeah.
Paul had something he wanted to share too, but Brindley, why don't you go first?
Hi, everybody. beyond grateful for all of this, Pat. Have always been. I think it's such a incredible growth and tremendous effort. It's so fantastic. I was curious about the little containment pond in front of Kennedy and the middle schools. I spend a decent amount of time helping with the laps at lunch, so that the kids can get outside for their containment walk. There are 5 minutes that they get every day to walk outside. And the pond in front of Kennedy is growing in non-pond items, and I can't take it over as a full-time project, but I'd be happy to go borrow one of your long-handled pickers for one of the times when I'm over there and clean it out initially. And then my second thought is, you've done such a great job with the high school kids and that age group. Have there been any efforts for the middle school kids and keeping the Kennedy and Wilson campuses area clean?
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things, we have a volunteer over at Wilson, a really great guy named Evan Lenson, and he's been working with me for years. And we still are trying to figure out how we can connect with the schools to get them a little more active in terms of picking up around their grounds and their borderlands. At Wilson, there are actually 2 little ponds. They're small, but a few years ago, one was a pretty heavy party spot. It was like going crazy with all kinds of, it's tucked back enough off the road, and at night, I don't think people could see them. So it was a tough area for a while. It was kind of right behind the old Building 19 and in between those mills. So there is something that could really be done, but I don't know how to coordinate right now. I haven't figured out with the high school and the middle schools and how they could help us a little bit more. I mean, we used to have a really active Natick High Earth Club, and it just kind of it didn't sustain itself too well. But now I guess Nate Lord has it cooking again. I'm not sure what they're all doing. They're trying to get, I think, composting, black earth composting at the high school. But I think those little borderlands of the schools are good too, because I think we can get kids out there safely. It's not like Route 9 or Route 135. I think it's safer for them to work out there. Of course, there's poison ivy and stuff too, but I think they can they can get out there and help us keep those areas a lot better.
Hey, Brinley, I was going to say, you and Greg live a lot closer to me, I guess, than to Pat's house there in West Natick. I've got a bunch of pickers, bags, stickers, the whole 9 yards. If you want to just touch base with me, we can arrange to get one to you.
Oh, Carrie, that'd be great. I'm happy to do that. So just expanding on that thought, when you have worked with the high school kids, did you have to fill out a query form, or has there been any conversations about that with the high school and being on the properties? Because I know with the middle school, just to be on the property, we all have to go through a query check. And
I think if it's during the school day, there might be. I think would I've run over there at, let's say, Natick High. They've been after school events and the Natick High Earth Club, or one of the clubs at Natick High, just came and it was not a real formalized, signing a permission form or anything. They came with their advisor, teacher, and they just went to work. And we've even had them, sometimes a few times I've had them in canoes and out getting the stuff at the island on Duck Pond, whatnot. But during the school day, ideally, maybe it would be a homeroom teacher and his kids or somebody. I don't know how they would want to structure it, but they could go out and they could take care of things. I could probably provide them with some.
Hey, Bradley,
Yeah,
I'm curious, when you've done laps at lunch, I mean, is there a coordinator for that specific activity?
Yeah, there is a coordinator for that. It's kind of crazy. She's, we have to do it separately. So Wilson has their own coordinator and Kennedy has their own coordinator. Right now we're struggling to find enough parents to come volunteer. But I think that this, when I'm there, I do often check in with the office, and I know them pretty well. So the next time I'm there, having a conversation in the office, I'll ask them who's the best outreach and what's
So
the
I
best.
want to propose a couple of things, picking up on what Sally said about women of a certain age getting out there. I'm disappointed but optimistic that the school department doesn't embrace multi-generational engagement, and that might be an opportunity for the senior center to coordinate with Natick Public Schools to get laps at lunch buddies from the senior center. And then maybe think about an advanced community service credit. Kind of like kids can get AP credit and use it towards college. Why can't middle schoolers get credit towards their community service hours in high school by cleaning up at laps at lunch?
Oh, I actually have both of those ideas on my list right now as we're working towards, thank you for bringing them up, as we're working towards finding a new coordinator.
It's mental health, right? I mean, this is what everybody's
Yeah.
complaining about. So let's start doing things we know work.
Well, we talk a lot about trying to get the kids service hours starting in middle school because and trash is one of the things that we talk about. Trash pickup is one of the things we talk about because it would be easy for them and it's easy for it to be a family engagement. We've learned that if you want to be National Honor Society, you have to have more than all of your hours. You have to have like 20 plus more hours already done by junior year in order to do that. And most kids don't find that out until their sophomore year, which makes it extremely challenging. And so if the kids could start it in middle school, I do think that we'd end up with more hours. And I think we'd end up with a lot more kids in volunteerism, because now there's a lot of kids who wait until sophomore year before they even start thinking about it.
Right. And
Well,
I would agree with that as a parent of 4 kids trying to, just administratively keep track of the service hours. We were very fortunate that we lived near the high school, and we used to have our kids be teachers at Natick Summer Academics. They could get 40 hours of credit before 9th grade even started. And that was wonderful to know that they didn't have to worry about it. I mean, our kids were involved in scouts and church groups and stuff. I knew they were going to do more volunteer stuff, but not to have to track it and just to say, this is one more thing that I don't have to worry about. If you pitch it to the parents that way of, you can be on the road toward getting this done, I think you'd get some parents to be very excited about that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's they do it all now by picture. The kids all take a picture of the form with the hours and text it to their counselors. So it's a whole different ballgame now. It's much easier. Well, hopefully it's much easier.
I think we can take writer's cramp off of a list of maladies moving forward. It's like polio. On that note, I'm just wondering, it's also a good opportunity. I know Pat and Carrie illustrated it with all those nips. What a great opportunity for Katie Sugarman's group, Natick 180, maybe to do a twice a year discussion about what they're finding when they do the cleanups. I mean, we've got a huge opportunity to get ahead of teen drinking, to get ahead of some of the social issues that come up that we see in middle school and high school if we get them involved in the cleanups early. I always felt this way with the elementary schools. I think every elementary school should adopt its own neighborhood. Parents talk about walkability. Well, let's use all of that to our advantage. And
I think you can start 5th and 6th grade if you have the right teachers and advisors and so forth, and spirit. I've had high school students approach me a number of times, honor society students who want to do a project, and I try to set them up with something. I've had that happen with Boy Scouts as well, because I know where some of the things need to be addressed. So they sometimes will just directly, or their parents know how to contact me, and we get them going. But Katie Sugarman in Natick 180, she was there yesterday at the Constituent Rail Trail, and I've worked with her. She has a student group called Natick Above the Influence. I think that's what they're still called. Natick. And those kids have helped a number of times over at Doug Pond and around the high school campus. So they've been really great. And Katie has started to distribute these. I have one out. It's a little container for sharps, a safe place you can put the needles and stuff. And you know,
Just a small point about, I don't know if it's a point, but about the nips and stuff like that, and just students. I do some trash walking with my dog and go down Oakland Street and make the loop around there to Campus Drive. And it's kind of sad to see all the nip bottles just going down Oakland Street. Is that a need that a student has before they get to high school? They have to just chug one down before they go and face their fellow students.
no, I think it's pretty serious because the high school parking lots, you know, there's sort of a strong evidence that at the end of the day, the kids maybe when they get in their cars and they have a couple of nips and they want to get rid of them, obviously. So they get rid of them either on Campus Drive or West Street or flying out there. They want to get them out of their car before they get home or wherever they have to go.
Well, and that, send me that slide deck because we are revamping the off-premises liquor licenses policy. And we've talked about banning nips as one of the policy decisions. So that's one of the steps we're most likely going to move towards with the select board. So
Yeah, I mean, there are some communities that are trying to do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think we can just do it as a matter of policy. I don't think it's anything more than the select board saying we should do it.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's a condition. I have to check with our attorney about that. But that's
I can contribute that having a high schooler having to pick up nips and see it has a great impact. The kids, we've had serious trouble at football games with nips being flushed down the toilet and clogging the toilets and them having to close the bathrooms because of it and only use the outhouses and the porta johns. I mean, and that area is definitely full of nips. And I do know because I do that with my own children, the collecting of the bottles and the impression that that makes is huge. So it definitely could be a project for high schoolers and middle schoolers.
yeah, that's a really interesting idea. And I'll just kind of say this, my nephew works in the liquor distribution industry. And what happens is the economics of it, sadly, are the nip is so profitable. The markup on it is just astronomical. So the people who are in the liquor business, they don't want to give that up. But it is a product that is actually designed to throw out of your car. Well, it's just designed to discard. And you know, it'd be good if we could break away from that. Yeah.
I did want to just kind of share screen, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, so Pat has this map he was talking about, so I thought it'd be fun to just take a look at.
Oh, yeah, you. Really pretty cool map, actually. Oh, there, you found the one on the Google map. Oh, good, yeah.
So I'll zoom in. But basically, we've got a bound map of Natick and each of the areas where there's a buddy bin, right? And the trouble spots. Is
Yeah,
that-
barrel and a buddy bin, and a little blue teardrops.
Yeah, so why
Are
don't
those?
we jump in?
If you were zero in like right around
Natick
Natick
High
High, we
School.
have quite a few, actually. Around Natick High, the Doug Pond. You go a little bit, yeah.
So, yeah, what do you want to look at? Do you want to look at the
Well, look,
island? Or-
there's you know, the little blue teardrop indicates where there's a unit. There's even one out there on the island that was recently emptied by Cognex volunteers.
Sorry, I'll go out there.
And yeah, the ones on Campus Drive, well, Carrie knows that area very well, but the ones that, you know, the one way out of Doug Pond, the fishermen, they stocked Doug Pond with rainbow trout just about 5 weeks ago. So the fishermen are going to really, they get active there and they do drink. And they just sometimes they're a little sloppy.
Yeah, sometimes.
But yeah. So we try to colonize that area with a number of units so that they'll do the right thing.
So basically, when somebody scans one of these bins, if it's full, when they scan a QR code, what happens?
Yeah. I wish Do you want to do it? And it'll go on your,
Yeah, and so which location is that? You can scan that one.
Yeah.
Is that a
this
particular
one,
location?
I haven't established a relocation,
okay.
but yeah.
How about yeah, that one
Well, it'll take you to the recording form. Yeah, this just takes you to the, or how do I do this?
Okay, I gotta do it by the phone. Can't do it easily without.
Yeah, it'll go, your phone will get you to the doc.
Let me do it and then I'll share it through my Gmail. I can probably just jump to the link.
I thought I'd put you on the distribution list for the access to those docs.
Just scanned it with my phone and going to a web page.
Kind of going to a Google Doc, actually.
Paul, we're not seeing that. I don't know if you have to adjust your
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah, no, I'm doing that with my phone, so I have to get.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to then. Yeah.
But this Google map that Paul has is available. I can send you the link and you can, play with it a little bit. It doesn't have the town divided up into the 8 zones yet. That's on this map.
Sorry,
We don't have it divided up,
didn't go through.
but we're getting there. Little
The
yellow
other thing
thing.
about the Doug Pond area, because I live very near there and periodically I go out also and try to pick up stuff along Campus Drive. The way the wind blows, that little arm of Doug Pond there near Campus Drive, everything blows into that. I can't tell you how many tennis balls I've fished out of the pond because they all come down from the tennis court and float their way over there, and they're like as bright as your shirt, Pat. So they're easy to see. But
You know what would help, if I could just,
Right.
that tennis ball thing, that on the tennis courts is that wall that you can just hit the ball off of. If they just extended that like another 6 feet, I've used that and not aiming to, but I've knocked balls over there and they all go right in the pond. If you could just
Yeah.
extend it, is that a select board thing?
That's a school department thing.
School.
Yeah.
It's probably schools working with the Rec and Parks Department, but
Oh.
schools, that's Natick Public Schools property.
Yeah, I'll,
I think here's an idea, and I'm glad Paul's here because I tread this line with the town and I don't know exactly how to do it all the time. We're pretty aggressive about trying to get the infrastructure out there so people do the right thing. So over at Wilson, I actually did put 3 units. One by the little basketball court that kind of has a gate leading into the mall over there with Stop and Shop. And then I put one over on the soccer field. Oh, there it is. Okay.
You can finish your thought and then we'll.
Put one on the soccer field, one at the baseball field. And there was nothing there. And I was kind of puzzled. I thought the town usually would put, a couple of barrels and bins of their own. Maybe it's too early in the season. I don't know. They do have, so I kind of like said, all right, well, the town hasn't put anything out there. So I feel like I got to get something out there. And I do it. And I think I drive the DPW crazy because they get annoyed with, but if I have enough people to support them and keep them emptied, then I think the DPW is not too pissed off about it.
Well, I think there's a couple of things happening. The DPW has a new director
Yeah.
in a sense, right? So we've changed the org structure of the DPW that's going through town meeting right now. So Bill Spratt, who came on board as our Director of Facilities Management, is now with the recent retirements in DPW and Jeremy Marset leaving for Sherborne. Bill is going to sit over 2 directors, one Director of Facilities, one Director of DPW, but Bill is sort of that unified point contact
Oh, I
now.
see.
So all land, natural resources, and DPW and
And
facilities
sanitation and everything,
All of
and
it, yeah,
recycling
yeah.
is under that.
under
yeah.
that department. So we'll at least have one point of contact for a lot of different functions. I think one of the things Jamie Erickson as town administrator has done and continues to do, and working closely with Bill, it's a culture shift too. I mean, a lot of these workers, they come in, they're unionized jobs, they have a very clear description. So anything more that you ask people to do beyond their contract, some people just saying,
It's a
I don't have to do that.
CBA.
yeah, so there's an element of just culture change. We need kind of a better culture of ownership and self sort of responsibility. And I think we're getting there. I think
Yeah.
actually I've heard some great things about they've established a development path and recognition for people that go above and beyond and all of that. So there's a culture shift going on within town staff, which is great. I think our leadership is changing and that's trickling through. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But I think as we've talked about in the past, there are so many areas in the community where we've got not-for-profits that have resources, people, money, whatever, information. We've got the municipal resources, but we need to do a better job getting more leverage as a municipality. We need to do a better job bringing volunteers and bringing these outside organizations into our local sort of staff. So that way we can do more with less tax money. I mean, to me, that's, I
Right.
joined the board of the service council when I left the select board the last time, hoping we could bring social services more together and sort of use a nonprofit partner as opposed to employing and using tax resources for all that. So I think we're coming into this era now post-pandemic where I think it was a nice idea 10 years ago. I think it's an imperative now. So I think that there's sort of a shift
One
going
thing
on.
that Evan and I, the volunteer over, was we were wondering is how can we get to schools? And Paul, you know this because you know your sons or your son played youth sports and baseball and Natick and all that. So the schools have these nice fields and the town sports programs use the fields, soccer, lacrosse, baseball. So, and how we could get them to help us a little more, like I don't know if there's a communication between DPW and the Parks and Rec and the town leagues. I don't know, but Johnny Marshall told me this is when he was back when he was director of recreation, and he's assistant town administrator. He said he met with the Little League people. I think it was baseball, and they established, I think it was also some of the youth soccer leagues. There was a green team for each game. The green team had to, where it alternated. Green team had to pick up all the wrappers and the gum wrappers and all that stuff after the game and just take care of it. That was their job for that game. And I think it worked pretty well for a while, but then I don't know what happened to it. They had, just over at Wilson Middle School this last weekend, I put in a couple of bins, but these huge tarps were just lying around on the fields. Like, I don't know what they were used for. I guess to protect the infield or something.
Oh, probably.
They were like just all rumpled up and just lying around. And
Yeah, they might have just treated the infield or something. I don't know.
Oh,
They do.
okay.
They use tarps to cover the playing surface, but that's they might
Yeah,
just treat it. But I, like
but
the
I
idea
just
of
don't know
green
why
team.
it would be like so, ugly and all rumpled up and just tossed over to the side kind of thing. And I don't know who does
Maybe they
Is that
forgot
part-
to tie it down or something.
Yeah, right.
Well-
It could have been not secured, or maybe you just caught it at a bad minute. I don't know if that's that was it timing. Like, was it there for a prolonged period of time, or did you just
Well, I
happen to
don't
see
know,
it?
but I mean, it was, these are large tarps too. They were rumpled up on each side of the field and there was a fair amount of, bottles and cans and stuff strewn around the baseball field. Of course, there was no barrel. There was nothing.
Well, that's part of the problem too. They don't have
Yeah.
a place to put it, so we get what we sell.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Hey,
I like.
a quick thing, just, I know Brinley's got her hand up, but Paul, before we get too far away, I think I heard you talking, I had stepped away for a second to refill our coffee. About some change in structure with DPW. Is that another potential guest you could line up for Coffee with a Purpose? Thank you so much for securing Jay to be coming next month, but it
Absolutely.
sounds like it would be really useful to have Bill or whoever it was you were speaking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. We've got next week open. I'm sure the calendar is full, but
You have to promise not to scare him out of town too fast, though.
Yeah, right.
He's changing,
well,
but
I
so
mean,
don't-
hopefully he
much
would be interested to know that, to link up with such a volunteer-oriented community of
Well,
people.
he would be. He came to us from WPI, and he also had a municipal DPW background before being heavy into a campus facilities kind of role. So he's a very interesting and well experienced person. And I if he's available, I'm sure he'd do it in a heartbeat. So it's he strikes me as that kind of guy. So
Cool. All right. That would be great. We can coordinate on dates later. So Brinley and Cindy have their hands up. Brinley?
Thanks. I am just a couple follow-ups real quick. I can say, first I'll start with Carrie, since we just had Bill at school committee making a presentation, I know that even though the parks and playgrounds and all of that are school, fall under school, if you want to get something done on it, you actually have to talk to him because of shared budgets and how the budgeting works and everything. So if you are going to email about the tennis courts, and getting that extended, I would definitely include Bill and DPW on that as well. We just had a huge conversation about that area and that park because they're looking at fencing. And so it would be very, very timely right now for you to get that included because that area is being looked at for improvements with fencing and everything. So it's very timely right now, literally right now.
You're talking about
Oh.
the tennis courts at Natick
Oh, I
High?
see.
At Natick High, correct.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Bradley.
the softball fields need attention with fencing and stuff. And so that area right now happens to be hot on everybody's list. So throwing that out now is very timely.
Is Dr. Nolan the best person to speak to at the school committee, or is there somebody else you could think of?
No, school committee wouldn't be it. Dr. Nolan would be it. Yep.
Yeah, if you can email me a name, maybe I'll do that and include Bill in the.
I was just gonna say, if I'm gonna reach out to Bill speaking next week, let me
Uh-huh.
soft sell him this idea first and let him
Please.
know that you'll be calling.
Yeah.
So rather than just getting too many, because
Yes,
Anna's
you've got more
got a
clout,
foot out the
certainly.
door. Well,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
dealing with get transition
Yeah.
and all that too.
Sure.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to say it's very timely right now because that was a serious hot button conversation in the last meeting. And then the other one was Pat. I was a part of Little League when we were when everybody was trying to do that whole green team thing, and I can tell you what, from my experience being involved at that time, what happened was that it takes parent coach buy-in, and all the coaches are parents, and getting all of them to buy in across the level. I remember we had this conversation in a previous Coffee with a Purpose, trying to work on this problem, especially with the bubblegum wrappers, because they sell those big tubs of bubblegum outdoor store, and those wrappers end up everywhere. I think the big thing with the Little League and the picking up trash there is figuring a way to have the coach buy in and the parent buy in, and some type of a team leader that can be a part of it to begin with, to help coaches with that. Because it was really easy for me and the teams that I could talk to do it, but I'm not a part of Little League anymore. And so it really, that making that green team stay with the Little League is, I think, a big challenge, and takes someone, I think, on the inside figuring out how to make it work so that it's a part, when they talk with all of the coaches, it's a part of it, that conversation at that point.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
really important. I mean, our kids didn't do a lot of Little League, but they did a lot of soccer. And for whatever reason, at least and again, this is years ago now, but that was part of the culture of soccer, is that, a parent's assigned to bring water and oranges, but all the kids are responsible for helping pick up the trash, and the field was clean when they left. And that was years, many years, and many coaches.
Yeah,
we saw
that was established.
Given
very
that-
strong.
That there are teams competing for wins. I wonder if we could even launch the green team trophy of, with the end of the season, that as the kids clean up and, fill bags, get them checked off by somebody, whichever team filled the most bags of trash. And then some team would discover the secret strategy is not just cleaning the soccer field, but going around and organizing a cleanup.
Or we just charge each of these nonprofit sports leagues a fee for cleaning up, and it becomes so large that the parents complain and it gets.
Yeah.
So that's-
Yeah, that's probably the way to do it.
Unfortunately, yeah, the
I
parents.
see Cindy's got her hand up, but I do want to
Yeah.
explain about the form, if we can go back to the form for a second. Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had stopped the sharing because I had thought we had moved away, but.
I
go
just
ahead,
wanted
Paul.
to
Cindy,
say
oh,
something
Cindy, go
about the
ahead, Bill.
culture, the Little League culture. I think there's quite a different culture from soccer culture. I took Pat Conaway's advice to see what would happen if I approached the Little League, and I tried to go to that first spring meeting that they had. This is because I volunteered to help with picking up Coolidge Field, and there was one year where I went, and there were probably 70 bazooka wrappers just dropped right there, sitting on the bench, where they all just ate their little bazooka gum and dropped the wrapper on the ground. And it occurs to me that maybe a green team thing maybe it isn't the right way, but certainly a culture change is important, and that's a tough, as Paul was just alluding to, in the whole DPW, that's a really tough thing. But and I think it has to probably come from parents. And I would say that, and I was also told, and I can't remember who told me this, maybe it was the town, that Little League, because they use those fields and they pay a fee, it's part of the deal that they clean up after themselves. It's part of the thing.
No, that's right.
So what the issue is that it's not part of the culture for the families and the coaches to make that work, because it's a no-brainer. And the idea of contests for picking up trash, if you pick up all the trash at the beginning of the season, then there's nothing left at the end. So that really doesn't really work. But just picking up the stuff after your own selves would be sufficient for me, and having that ethic. That's what we want to try to get, right? Is you pick up after yourself. Like, you can leave your bedroom the way you want unless your mother says you can't otherwise. But when it's public property, that's important. And that should be part, that is actually, I looked up the Little League, that is actually part of Little League ethics. It's just not on the ground here in all the coaches in Natick.
Well, it's even worse than that, because if you, like I got into some of the fields over the last dozen years, the stands, this is true in Framingham too.
Oh yeah.
There's plenty of trash on the go
Oh, yeah.
beverage
Oh, yeah.
containers. And below the stands, and that's where the parents sit, and they just drop their stuff right. And they're at the and you have to have a barrel and a bin nearby.
Yeah.
And that does help.
It helps a lot. Yeah. There
there's
was
a-
one, they took
ways to
away
go.
they took two of the bins and the trash and buddy bins away, because I guess it was the winter, and it took a lot for me to get them to put them back. Like, they have to be there when baseball starts, or and dog walkers were just dropping the bag where the trash barrel had been, and that sort of stopped finally. Anyway,
That's too bad
I'll shut up.
too bad we didn't- No, that's great. That's great feedback. It's too bad we didn't have this conversation. We had the parade and the Little League opening day ceremony
right.
on Saturday. It would have been a great opportunity to remind people.
There's always next year.
Oh, for sure. But look, the people that volunteer, you have longtime volunteers that are in that organization. They know better. They're connected to the community. This part of this is just public awareness and a little bit of public shaming, and mostly a reminder.
Yeah.
Again, I think we're all kind of learning how to socialize again too. So to me, this is all a good opportunity. Just to,
And it's
Yeah.
also, it's a really long process. I remember in the 70s when hiking started to become super popular, and people, up in the mountains were doing the same thing. They'd hike in, they'd dump their trash, and they'd leave. And they, I don't know exactly whose campaign this was, whether it was the Forest Service or the Appalachian Mountain Club. They started this big thing they called carry in, carry out. And just to remind people, if you can carry your full beer bottle into the party spot, you can carry the empty bottle out. But it's a really long process to make that mindset shift.
Yeah.
for what it's worth,
So
Sarah.
Pat, did you want to describe more about this form?
Well, yeah, just quickly before we close, but this is what your phone, when you do the QR code, your phone gets you to this. You have your phone in your hand, and Paul's going to show you. So you can just make a select. There's a whole list of where the numbers in the bins, and you can just enter the number you're reporting about, and then you can check whether it's the bin or both that you're reporting about, whether you emptied it or fixed it, and then you can put a little bit of a thing in that your answer. That goes to the another thing I'll show you in a second. So just type in a couple of quick things. Oh, we didn't identify the bin that we were doing, did we?
Actually, we did just.
Okay. Did you? Yeah, just check trash bin or recycle bin, or check both of those. Okay. Now then you hit submit, and it goes to our form. So now I'll show you what the form looks like. If you go to the scroll at the top there, Paul, it has a.
It's actually Doug doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, Doug's doing it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So where should I go?
So see where it's submit. No.
Submit another
Scroll
response.
scroll down a little bit, maybe. I'm trying to think where this is.
This is all I've got at this point.
Oh, you're trying to look at the back end now where it comes
You may
in.
have to be a.
Right. That might require a different ID.
Well, there's a spreadsheet. It gives you a choice on this where you go just to this, but there's a little. It says responses, You see up top where it says responses?
Probably have to be
Um,
logged in as
That's
a
too high.
administrator.
No,
Higher?
Pat,
Oh,
when you're running your own Google form, that's what it looks like. But when Doug is looking at his end, you don't see that because he's a user. But
Yeah,
as a creator of a Google form, I know just what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, so he can't do it. Oh, okay.
right.
No, you have to be at your place.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah, there's a little,
And
But
it says
you-
switch account, maybe you can go to the administrator account.
You'd have to go to your Google where you set up the form to get to
Yeah,
the
Doug,
back end.
Right, if you switch account, Doug.
Oh, I'm sorry, I keep thinking you're doing.
yeah, I thought you were upgradable. Okay,
it.
there you go. It's a lot easier than this, actually.
Is Paul trying to figure it out with a different account?
No, I mean,
May not be,
but it'll take you to a little, another little spreadsheet for the responses. And it's comments from the field, and it has a list of all the things that people have done, including Carrie and me, over the last 3 or 4 weeks. It has little entries and
Yeah.
from what bins they either emptied or fixed, or it's all in there. And yours, when you fill out that form, yours goes directly into that little spreadsheet. So we have a way of sort of keeping track of which barrels and bins fill up real fast and need constant attention, and which ones, like the ones in Pekin Cove where Bill is, I guess Bill's not on here anymore, but you know, those fill up much slower. But like the Navy Yard one is like, oof, it's crazy. That park is so popular. And then the Coolidge Field one,
There's also the
Cindy,
access to the rail trail.
yeah, the Coolidge Field one, the softball field, the town took out their barrel and bin there. So I had to put one in, and that one fills up real fast. And the town has one over on the basketball court, but I don't know. I didn't quite understand the strategy of what they were doing or what they have decided to do over at Coolidge Field. And I've also noticed that at Cole has 2 fields, north and south. And the town has decided to, the south field has a blue barrel, but no recycling bin beside it. And the north field, which is the artificial one, which gets a lot of use, has a couple of a barrel, a toter bin and a toter barrel. I don't like the toter bins for recycling because they're all over Wayland too. They just, people think they're trash bins, and they just
Right, you
toss
don't
their
know.
pizza boxes and they toss everything into those, and it's supposed to be for recycling, but it's not working well. The old green cage bins were much more effective, but I think perhaps the workers, the DPW, don't like the awkwardness of emptying the green cage ones. I don't know. It's just, that's my theory.
Psychology of trash.
But the old green cage ones were pretty cool. They were actually made at the Massachusetts Correctional Institute, and they were making them like crazy. And they had Newton had them, and Natick had a bunch of them, and Natick just has a few left. And I don't know. They were a great idea. It was a win-win for Massachusetts. You know, prisoners had something to build that was very effective, but everybody wants to go to the things that just grab automatically and dump. You know, that's the new
New
approach.
technology.
And they want to ride a powerful machine or use a powerful blower thing. They want to ride and they want to blow, but they don't want to pick up.
In fairness, though, the numbers are also dwindling. I mean, it's just finding people to do some of these jobs
Oh,
in
yeah.
general. I mean, we're just not, it's finding
It's-
labor right now.
It's finding the labor.
Yeah, there's a dearth of people looking for work.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's
a,
interesting.
yeah,
It's touching.
right. So I do think unfortunately technology is part of it, but I agree with you. There is that cultural.
Yeah.
But I think to me, it's what Cindy was saying, it's all of us. It's that we just need to reinvigorate this culture of caring for our own community, right? This is our
Right.
backyard.
And I personally think town Natick is really well run. I mean, overall, I think it's fantastic. I mean, 50 years ago when I moved, this is run by a bunch of old boy network. It was pathetic. And then the balls came along, and and the people reformed it and made it a really serious town. The schools too. It was 50 years ago, let me tell you. This town is so much more professional and so much better run than it was, back in those days.
All right, well, I think I might stop the recording at this point. Well, first off, thank you, Pat, not just for your presentation this morning, but for your decades of service and the way you've seeded your community support ethic into the community. There's a lot of folks that do a lot of volunteer work because of looking at you and looking at your family. So thank you for being a beacon to us all. I will stop the recording and I'll talk to Ian about